welcome everyone to another edition of AEW Unrestricted, the official podcast of All Elite Wrestling. I am Aubrey Edwards, along with my co-host Will Washington, and we've got another hostess with the mostest joining us today, the one, the only, the beast, Nyla Rose. How you doing, Nyla? So happy to have you here.
I'm good. Thanks for having me back.
Did you just do the rap air horn?
Yes, I did. Like, it's like the week of Nyla, so of course we need to hit that.
That's true. At the time of recording, Nyla just hosted the first ever AEW Heels Awards, which was quite honestly probably the best event we've ever done. And then tonight I will be playing video games with her on the AEW game stream. So I'm like, I have a lot of Nyla in my life right now, and I'm kind of excited about it.
Aww.
And I'm happy that we have matching hats.
We have matching upper deck hats.
Yeah,
I went with the hoodie. I did not get the memo.
We could have gone with it all. But yes, Upper Deck. We love our friends at Upper Deck because AEW Unrestricted, the official podcast of All Elite Wrestling, is presented by Upper Deck. Collect your favorite wrestlers in 2025 Upper Deck AEW and start your trading card collection today. Unwrap autograph, memorabilia, and premium tech inserts. Visit upperdeck.com to learn more. And those 2025 packs, you see Miss Aubrey Edwards has them here. I've got my 2025 packs right here.
I don't have any. Feel free to send some. Just saying. I'm
wink,
I'm
wink,
outdated.
Upper Deck.
I'm
Wink,
outdated.
Yeah, I mean, we have like regular guest co-host Nyla Rose on the podcast. We should be sending her some merch. I think like, I don't know. We'll write up an email. But anyway, since we do have Nyla.
Per my last email,
one of the categories in the first ever Heels Awards, which went to Daddy Magic, by the way.
That's right.
Probably my favorite acceptance speech. It was so good. Anyway, we are but a couple weeks away from Double or Nothing, one of my favorite pay-per-views of the year. And it only made sense. Look at that. It is coming up Sunday, May 25th, live from the Desert Diamond Arena in Glendale, Arizona. And to celebrate AEW's, like, it feels like our kind of like actual birthday. Like there's the birthday like on the certificate, and then there's the birthday like the day you show up at the party. So like this is our actual birthday where we're going to, so today we're going to share some of our favorite matches and moments from Double or Nothing history. And of course we have Nyla here to help us because she's been a part of some of those memorable moments and favorite moments from history. So
does it feel weird, by the way,
what?
Having, of course, because you guys have been around since the beginning. I've been around for a number of Double or Nothings. But does it feel weird knowing that this will be the first one where, like, we're not going to be walking through casinos? We're not going to be...
It does.
Yeah.
It does. It feels, I don't want to say wrong, but, like, there's a lot going on, right? Like, it feels odd because it's not what we know, but it is a little familiar because we had two at Daly's place.
Right.
So it does. It's not completely out of left field, but it does feel a little off.
It does, but it's fresh. It feels new. It feels like somebody else is getting. And no offense to Las Vegas, because Las Vegas has been a great host to us.
Oh, they've been so good to us.
Yeah, they've been so good to us. But you know, for what Double or Nothing has brought to fans, for somebody else to get to experience that this time, I think is going to be really, really cool. And so it's just, it does feel odd knowing that for the first time, like, you know, just like walking the strip in the middle of the evening or things like that. Like it's going to be different.
I said let's go to Reno, Nevada.
Right? Oh, no, don't go to Reno. Don't go to Reno. No offense to Reno, but don't go to Reno. I'm just excited for bottled water to not cost $15. Like, personally, that's what I'm looking forward to.
Strong argument.
Very strong argument for Glendale, Arizona. One of my favorite things is, I've mentioned before, like, but we have ref-specific shirts for all the pay-per-views, and they all have, like, the Double or Nothing logo. And Double or Nothing was actually the first one we did this for. And it was back in my day when there were only, like, 4 pay-per-views, so we only had 4 special shirts, and now we have more special shirts than actual shirts that I wear at Weekly TV. So anytime our logo changes, it's always one of those like panic of, oh God, do we have to order more shirts? Which actually happened for Revolution. Like we went from the tech green and blue logo scheme, and we switched it to like the like 80s like Revolution. It was like all yellow and stuff, so we had to get all new ref shirts.
That's
and then when
cyberpunky. It was kind of
a little bit.
It was a little cyberpunk, and then with the Lakers color scheme.
Right. And then I heard through the grapevine that we were doing Glendale, and I'm like, oh God, we're gonna have to order these shirts. So I'm like typing up the email, I've got it ready. And then instead we get it comes out, it says Double or Nothing, but like all the cactuses are still in like the neon piping format. I'm like, I think we're good.
Yeah.
I think we're good. It's evoking the idea. I'm very happy with it.
Yeah. There you go.
Well, Double or Nothing has, as you mentioned, the birth of AEW, and when we talk about the first Double or Nothing and really being the first AEW event, an event that you were both present at, an event that I would say really allowed the world to get to know really the both of you on a grand stage, and it's. To talk about that first event, and like even just looking at the card as I have it right in front of me, it's an insane time capsule to look at this show and think about how far AEW has come in 6 years.
Oh, without a doubt. I'm going to cheat a little bit here.
Sure.
I know we're supposed to be highlighting our favorite moments, our favorite matches, but like that entire show holds such a special place for me for so many reasons. A lot of them, Will, you already mentioned, just it being like our inaugural introduction of sorts, right? Having a goodness, what was like 100-foot poster of myself on the side of the MGM Grand, and like having my face everywhere in Vegas. These are things that people strive for their whole lives, right? Like there are people with residencies in Vegas performing nightly, and their face isn't everywhere the way I got sick of seeing myself. I was like, oh God, it's me again? No, like get that out of here.
I mean, there's history that to think about the fact that your face got to be plastered all over Vegas like that. Like New Edition got to do that, and then Nyla Rose gets to do it. Like to think about the fact that
no big deal.
You got to do it like that.
You guys, this is not an exaggeration. Like literally everywhere. Yes, our show was at the MGM Grand, but I was down the strip by the Stratosphere, which is a couple of miles away, and I'm seeing posters of my face. Down in Old Vegas on Fremont Street, I'm seeing neon signs with my face, All Elite Wrestling, Kenny Omega. Like, if you can share the spotlight with Kenny Omega, every time is a good time.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was wild, and I will agree with Nyla there, because I think every time I saw an AEW poster, I'm taking a photo like a little tourist. And then if you look back at my phone, I have like 20 different photos because it was literally everywhere. And at one point, I'm like, I should just really stop, because this isn't like a once. I'm gonna see it once and then that's it. But since we're on the topic of the very first Double or Nothing, like Nyla, you were a part of the women's 4-way. It was you, Kylie, it was Britt, and it was Shida. No, Shida was in my match.
Yeah.
Awesome Kong.
Awesome
right?
Kong.
No, yeah,
That's
Awesome
right.
Kong was in our match. Yeah, it was. There was a lot. There was a lot of personality in that show. And in that match you're talking about in particular, I am always I watch the world through two goggles, the wrestling world through two goggles. There's my side of being a performer, and then always have the fan goggles on, like right on the other eye. It's like the 3D glasses. I can't help but be a fan of this. I grew up as a fan. I still am a fan, and I will forever be a fan of pro wrestling. So for that moment, the weeks leading up to it and everything, here we have, like I said, myself, Kylie Ray, Britt Baker. We're going back and forth having all this. Brandi Rhodes, insert yourself into everything. We're thinking she's going to be a part of this. Awesome Kong's music hits. She walks out, and that place became unglued. And I think through the magic of being able to watch this streaming on Max, there's a moment where the camera caught my face, and I'm like, "Oh, it's Awesome Kong!" Like I slipped a little bit. I slipped a little bit because I wasn't expecting her. There are so few surprises in pro wrestling now because everybody wants to be a part without actually putting in the work to be a part. That's my gripe. I'm off my soapbox. But for this to be a true surprise for the fans, for myself included, and having that place come absolutely unglued with energy, unmatched, absolutely unmatched.
It was wild.
I remember watching that moment on TV. Like, I haven't gotten to talk much about this, but like there was such an excitement in the air talking about 2019 Double or Nothing, and how much wrestling fans just wanted this alternative, that we wanted something new, we wanted something fresh. And I had a Double or Nothing watch party. Like, now that I'm replaying this in my head, I'm like, oh yeah, I had friends over. Like, we sat around, we ordered wings, like we watched Double or Nothing. This was like a big deal for us. And I remember when Brandy hit the top of the stage, it was like, okay, Brandy's about to be in this match. This is what we expected. We had all been following the road twos leading up to Double or Nothing. We're like, okay, we know what's about to happen here. And then when she said awesome, we all looked at each other and we're like, oh, okay. And there it was.
Why'd she say it like that? What's going on? Yeah. For sure.
And to see her inserted into this match, it was just a big deal, and it was really cool. And it was the first kind of moment that made us realize that, okay, AEW is going to be a place where we're going to get to see some surprises. We're going to get to see this is going to feel special. And of course, that is a precursor to how the show ended. But before we get to that, I did want to talk, Aubrey, about your match, the match we talked about, which was the 6-woman tag, where we did see Hikaru Shida, Riho, and Ryo Mizunami versus Aja Kong, Yuka Sakazaki, and Emi Sakura, which for a lot of people was really their first exposure to a lot of the women in this match. Like, a lot of us grew up with Aja Kong and things along those lines.
Yeah.
But a lot of American fans had never seen Shida before, had never seen Riho before. This match was awesome. The fans were chanting women's wrestling by the end of this match.
Yeah.
It was... I remember a lot about this match. But Aubrey, being out there, what was that moment like for you in getting to experience that with the fans?
So it's funny because you mentioned this is the introduction of a lot of these wrestlers to everyone. Guess what? It was an introduction to me too. Because I had only been watching wrestling for about 10 years at that point, if that. So a lot of my preparation for Double or Nothing, because I found out I was doing Double or Nothing in January of that year, but then I couldn't tell anybody for about 4 months. So I just, as people got announced for the show, I would just download everything I could from them and just watch all their stuff, because I'm like, I want to be prepared. I want to know what people's signatures are. I want to know what people's finishers are, so that I don't look like an utter moron when I'm like, hey, what's your finish? I can just say, oh, are you using this or this? And it looks like I'm actually prepared to do my job. So that ended up helping out substantially for this, the women's, this tag match, right? Because there was a massive language barrier. Now, Shida is extremely fluent in English. At the time, she knew very, very little. So to be able to
Which is crazy, because she cuts promos now. Think about to go from...
English.
Yes.
It's wild, right? But the only thing that we can actually exchange, and I say, running knee? And she says, yes. Okay, cool. We've got somewhere to start. I know how we're going to get through this somehow. But being able to communicate time cues to people is really difficult when you don't speak their language. There's all of these things. So I'm trying to not, poop my pants out of fear on TV. But at the same time, you have all of these different personalities, right? She does her own character. Emmy has this this charisma that is larger than life. And then, yes, oh my God, I love Emmy. You have Riho, who is this tiny, delicate flower, but can actually probably punch you harder than most other people.
Yes, so, I'll co-sign that. Yes.
Yes. So it's really fascinating to be a part of a match like this, where I'm, as a fan, learning about these wrestlers the same time as everyone else is. And then by the end of the match, as what's the word I'm looking for? I'm just as thrilled and excited and proud that this is something that now exists, that we can put Japanese women's wrestling on the platform that it is. Because, it's really just wasn't featured in America as prominently as it was until AEW came around, and now we have Joshi's featured prominently, and it's just so great. Yeah, that match was probably one of the scariest moments of my life, but I'm glad with how it turned out.
Can I piggyback on that super quick?
Absolutely.
Just to kind of put a nice little ribbon on what you said. Fan goggle moment, right? It was really cool, because watching that match, I was familiar with some of the people in that match. Not everybody, but most people I've actually had history with in Japan. So I did know. And of course, Aja Kong, legend. So where was I going with this? Watching the fans, they're super respectful. They knew they were getting a match. They were excited for what they were getting, but they didn't know what they were getting. So to watch them and hear and feel that moment when they connected with everybody, and by the end of the match, they're chanting women's wrestling, they're chanting people's names, and there were some genuine fandoms born out of that match. Like, you could see, you could hear, you could feel the shift, the excitement from it turning from, hey, wrestling, we respect it, let's go out there and do it, to like, holy crap, these women are tearing it down, I'm on board. I don't know who this lady is, but I'm looking her up when I'm done. Like, it was such a cool thing to watch.
It was amazing. Again, it was just one of those things that I think really enhanced my viewing as a professional wrestling fan. And then, speaking of which, talking about really the match everybody had come for, which was Chris Jericho versus Kenny Omega, the winner getting a future match for the AEW World Championship. They were going to face the winner of the Casino Battle Royale from earlier in the night, which Hangman Adam Page had won. But Chris Jericho, Kenny Omega, like, that's one of those matches we talk about where it's like, historically, a lot of people have said that their first match in New Japan was almost the blueprint for what AEW ended up becoming. That in order to really sell this product, that was what Tony had looked toward. And so this being the first main event made total sense. And, when you think about who Kenny is and who he is to AEW, and you think about who Chris Jericho has been to AEW, and this being the first main event, and these two tore the house down with each other, it was fantastic. And it really set the tone for what a main event in All Elite Wrestling could look like. And then, shockingly, Chris Jericho won. And that shocked everybody. That surprised everybody because I think, everybody had kind of hitched their wagon to Kenny Omega. The thought at the time was, okay, AEW's starting, Kenny Omega's going to be the face, the centerpiece, and then he lost. And immediately that told us as fans, anything can happen here in AEW. And then, speaking of anything can happen, Jon Moxley makes his debut.
Bro.
Shout to Keith Mitchell, who made that moment special in making sure that the camera was that we got the right shot there. Everything was so perfect with that. And Jon makes his way in. He hits what's now known as a Death Rider on Chris Jericho, and then on Kenny Omega, they brawl on the stage, and that iconic shot of Moxley standing on the chips as Double or Nothing goes off the air with his hands in the air. And I remember feeling like, all right, let's go. Like, I'm in. This is All Elite Wrestling, and this is what the show is going to be. And if it can feel like this even sometimes, I am ready for what this is about to be. And I think Double or Nothing, if there could ever be a perfect birthday for a promotion, the first Double or Nothing really represents that.
For sure. I don't want to spend too much time. I mean, I know you guys are driving the ship, but we have so many Double or Nothings to get through. But if I can just say, like, not just iconic moments, but a little bit of a butterfly effect, right? A little bit of a precursor, this match between Jericho and Omega. It gave birth to Le Champion, having the world title go to this man's head. And when I say butterfly effect, we had little moments that we didn't realize at the time that would become integral throughout the lifeblood, the fibers, the DNA of what All Elite Wrestling is from the pay-per-view itself, but specifically this one match.
It was wild. I mean, there's other things that we mentioned throughout the night too. Like, Hangman won the Casino Battle Royal, and the last person he eliminated was MJF. And then come back 5 years later, all of a sudden we're playing into that. So it's one of those things where it was a great introduction for AEW fans to know that literally everything matters and everything's going to play into everything else. So it was like, it's the gift that keeps on giving. And there's so many more Double or Nothings to talk about. We've only got so much time in the show. So we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, let's talk about more as we get excited for this year's Double or Nothing here on AEW Unrestricted. AEW Unrestricted. We've got Aubrey, we've got Nyla, we've got Will, and we are talking about the amazingness of Double or Nothing. We touched on how great Double or Nothing 2019 was as a welcome party for AEW, introducing the fans to all of the amazing things that we offer. And as we get closer to Double or Nothing this year in Glendale, Arizona, we're spending this podcast kind of going back and rehashing some of our favorite moments, whether they're moments or matches from the show. And one of the things that really stands out for me is just like the bookend of pandemic that Double or Nothing ended up being, because the 2020 Double or Nothing ended up being at Daly's Place at the time, TIA Bank Field, Jacksonville, and there was not a single fan in the building. And then later on, you look at 2021 Double or Nothing, where it was the first full capacity show since the pandemic began. So being able to kind of see those two together and the parallels that they provided and like the memorable moments by themselves as the shows, like it's wild. Like I completely even forgot until I started reading through the notes, like, oh yeah, we had a pandemic. Like,
yeah. Well, it's funny
time.
too, because like I remember coming out of the 2019 Double or Nothing, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to Double or Nothing next year. I'm going to I am going to do it. And then like, as we were getting closer, it was like, all right, this is going to happen. Let's plan a trip to Vegas. And then didn't happen. Instead, Double or Nothing was a show that honestly, like as somebody sitting at home, we needed, and we didn't realize how much we needed it until it was over. And it was like, God, that this helped take our minds off of what's going on right now for a few hours, and getting to see what we saw at that show. Like, Nyla unfortunately lost the AEW Women's World Championship to Hikaru Shida.
In a banger, by the way.
Yeah, in a banger. I still think about not just the kendo stick shot, but your sell of the kendo stick shot is like phenomenal. I
don't think it was a sell. I think it was like
that was a kendo stick shot. She swung for the fences.
But almost in the way that it's a very, I don't want to say Looney Tunes, but it's very like your fall is so like when somebody got hit with an anvil and is just like, I'm gone. And that was it. And it was so perfect. I remember that moment and just feeling like this was that was such a great moment, I think, for both of you. And I remember coming away from that feeling really good about what the women's division was going to have coming forward. And then we also had Jon Moxley defending the AEW World Championship against Brody Lee.
Yes.
And Brody getting to carry that belt around leading into that match. Brody actually walking in with that World Championship belt despite not being the champion, and getting paradigm shifted through the stage.
Through the stage.
Yeah.
I remember that. We were all watching that on the monitor like, what the hell just happened?
It was such a great visual.
Yeah, there was a lot of great moments. I remember I got in trouble for trying to take one of the giant playing cards.
The ones that Charlie made?
Yeah.
I wanted one so bad. Like the set decoration was so good. We tried to really hype it up and bring that energy and the imagery from the previous year. Again, because of the pandemic, we had to make do with what we had. And I think we knocked it out of the park as best we could given the circumstances. But there were a lot of little hiccups and roadblocks trying to even get stuff because the world was locked down.
Think about the TNT Championship. Like that night was the birth of the TNT Championship.
Yes.
That was the inaugural match for the TNT title, and the belt wasn't finished. And that was that ended up being kind of a noteworthy piece of TNT Championship history, is that the first version of that belt was incomplete. Because
you must have been reading my notes, because that's exactly where I was going with that.
I didn't know that. I thought we were just talking.
No, that's exactly where I was going.
Mind meld connection.
Yeah. And that is such a special thing. Mike Tyson presenting the title and Cody being the first TNT champion. And yeah, he the belt not being complete. And like,
Wild.
it is wild. And the hard thing is, like, I understood that, right? Because like I've been a belt collector for a very long time, and a few of my belts were actually custom made. And so like I there's a few where I used to like follow the process. And so like as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, that's zinc. I know what that is. I know exactly what's going on right here. That is the unplated, uncoated zinc before any of the actual belt could be completed. And then to know as the time went on, like we got to see what the actual TNT Championship looked like, and it ended up being, I think, visually really cool. But then you kind of look back and go, you know, as a piece of history, that's actually really cool that for that time period, the original TNT title wasn't finished, and it really represents what the pandemic was, and the limitations of it.
I want to talk about, because I feel like the pandemic was a great place for what we eventually ended up seeing a lot was cinematic wrestling. And that eventually led to other things that I'm sure we'll talk about later on in the show. But it's hard to not talk about pandemic era without talking about Stadium Stampede.
Yeah.
And just how absolutely ridiculous this was. Like the fact that, like, so here's the thing with wrestlers. If you give them an inch, they will take a mile. Like, I remember asking one time why we don't keep a spine board under the ring, for like, just in case like there's like a neck injury or something. And Doc looks at me and goes, why do you think we would do that? I go, oh, right, because then it would be immediately used as a weapon. That makes total sense. So the fact that we had access to a stadium is like the ultimate representation of that, right? Like, and to be standing on the field at Jacksonville, like Florida, at 5:30 in the morning, filming this thing and telling people, hey guys, the sun's going to be up in an hour. We kind of have to finish this. Like, I remember leaving the stadium and taking a picture of, because they have these little like digital clocks backstage. I took a picture of like, I can't believe it's 6 a.m. and I'm going home. And everybody else is like, oh, it's great. We don't have to even wrestle tomorrow. We've got our whole thing done. I'm like, you assholes.
Yeah. You know what was great was, obviously there were rumors floating around that, the original Stadium Stampede had been taped beforehand. But the beauty of those rumors were that everybody was like, it is insane. You are going to need to watch this. Mm-hmm. And that was floating all around the internet of just trust us. When it comes time for Stadium Stampede to air, it's going to be like nothing you've ever seen, and you are going to love it.
That's an understatement. Like, I still watch it, and I'm still finding new stuff every single time. That's the epitome of just like cramming everything you can, every idea you have. It was zany, it was wacky, it was violent, it was beautiful. It the one-winged angel off of the stands. My goodness, if you haven't seen it, you are doing yourself a disservice. Please go watch it immediately.
I think it's actually available on Max right now.
Yeah. It is?
Yes, exactly. It's one of the ones that recently were uploaded, I believe.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, they were. I had someone message me about it, like, oh my God, I'm watching Stadium Stampede. I'm like, oh man. So to think about the first Stadium Stampede, like it was a very zany, like very feel-good moment, because I feel like that kind of told us like what we needed in that moment in the pandemic.
What the world needed.
Exactly. And then a year later, we get the Stadium Stampede, but it's completely different. We have the Inner Circle propelling in. We have kind of more like dark, more violent. There's a lot more like dark scenes and fighting. There's motorcycles running around. But the thing that I loved about it was the timing of it going from pre-recorded to live. And that was one of my it was almost like a metaphor for this is us coming out of the pandemic and we're about to take this shit on the road, guys.
Yes.
Like this is going to be real fun. So it's kind of like, I remember standing there, watching the thing, waiting for sort of the spots to hit, and then having everything sort of finish out in Double or Nothing 2021. And just the amazingness that I felt. It was one of those warm and fuzzy feelings that you really can't replicate outside of when everything goes off without a hitch. And I remember feeling so good coming out of that and knowing that we were going to go back on the road and just feeling the bookend that was Double or Nothing. Man, it it put like such a nice bow on all of the crazy things that were happening during the pandemic, and reminded me how great we grew as a company and how wonderful working at AEW was, and how honestly grateful we were for a lot of the resources we had at that time. And like that's what Double or Nothing 2021 means to me. It was just
it was an emotional night across the board, because
so emotional.
It was our first time back with a live audience. There were tears in people's eyes.
Mm-hmm.
I was right there. I was right behind Brad Williams, as we talked about a couple weeks ago.
You finally made it. You finally made it.
I did. I knew I was that was my first time in Jacksonville. And it was like, you're right. There were tears. People were high-fiving. They were hugging. They were like, man, we are outside again. And it is weird to think that like it was like a year and a half, but it felt like an eternity. That we were just like,
did.
Yeah. And to know that night got to be what it was, that we got to experience professional wrestling again, and for the show to be as good as it was as well, I think was also really important. Like, talking about Stadium Stampede, and, again, we were watching it on the Tron, and then all of a sudden it spills out in front of us, and we're like, oh my God, like, wrestling's back. This is great. But then, like, before that, we saw Kenny Omega versus Pac versus Orange Cassidy for the AEW World Championship. Yeah. And you getting to count that final fall was...
If you go back and watch me fall into the ring, I literally fall in, because the way that ramp was set up, there's like 3 stairs. So you're trying to run to the ring as quickly as possible, but not trip. And I literally just dive through the ropes and go into position for the pin. So very memorable moment for me, because I woke up with quite a few interesting bruises that I normally don't get from reffing.
Listen, I realize I'm being totally selfish about this. I'm making this all about me today, but you got to
bear with me.
You got to bear with me. One of my standout moments was getting to see Sting live.
Same.
I haven't seen this man wrestle live since Starrcade 97, people.
Right?
So
were you at Starrcade 97? That makes total sense.
Yes, I was at
of course, because I'm like, duh, DC. Like, of course you would have been at Starrcade 97, MCI Center. Like, there's... Of course you would have been there.
Yes, I was walking through the promenade. I don't know. I was walking through the concession stands, and people start going crazy, giving applause, and I'm like, for me? Oh, thank you. You shouldn't have. And that's when I feel a presence behind me, and I turn around and it's Ray Traylor. I'm like, oh, of course it's for him. Like, why? Nobody knows who I am. Why would it be for me?
Yes.
But yes, it was a great time, and to get to see Sting live, do his thing. I embarrassed myself and called him Mr. Sting, and that's my moment from that year personally.
To be fair, I think Bandito also calls him Mr. Sting, so that's fair. Bandito also calls Jericho Mr. Jericho. It's absolutely adorable. I love it. It makes me giggle every time. But yeah, that match was wild, because we had only seen Sting wrestle in a cinematic match.
Yes.
And it was his first time coming back. And we're like, well, if this is all we get from Sting, like, we're just very grateful that we get Sting in our lives, especially because he's such a great guy. And we've talked about him multiple times on this podcast, how wonderful he is.
Wealth of knowledge. Oh my
Wealth of knowledge. He is kinder to anyone than they deserve him to be. But to see him live wrestling with Darby, and to not even know at that point that this was going to be like a regular occurrence, is kind of cool to look back and see that this was like, oh man, there's just this amazing picture I have of me just yelling at Sting, because he wasn't legal, but he decided he wanted to get in and just throw a submission on somebody. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing? He goes, I don't know. What am I doing?
Also, that's very much, he's sneaky secret funny.
So sneaky.
Yeah.
So
yes,
sneaky
very much
funny.
so.
You wouldn't expect it, because of just like his presence, his persona, just very solemn, I don't know, quiet to himself, but he's got these little quips. He's very sneaky funny.
Oh, they are like the equivalent of like wrestling dad jokes, and they're so good.
Yes. So good. I mean, so many more moments here with Double or Nothing. We've only actually covered 3 of them. We've still got 2 more to talk about. So let's take a quick break and then come back and talk more about our favorite memorable moments from Double or Nothing here on AEW Unrestricted. AEW Unrestricted, Aubrey, Nyla, Will, we're discussing all of our favorite memorable moments from Double or Nothing. There are too many to count and too many to talk about in this podcast alone, but we're trying to hit the high notes because Double or Nothing is definitely one of the highlights of the year for AEW fans and for AEW staff and talent. We just absolutely love Double or Nothing. I love Double or Nothing. It's one of my favorite shows. We talked a little bit about pandemic era Double or Nothing, both 2020 and 2021, and now we're back in I don't know, the normal realm, like the real timeline, not the one that's on fire. The real timeline of 2022. We make a return to Vegas. We're at the T-Mobile Arena, and this is an absolutely crazy show. To have Double or Nothing return back to Vegas. Now we've had an equal number of Double or Nothings in Vegas and Jacksonville, if you're keeping score at this point. But this, like as we talked about Stadium Stampede, this brought forth Anarchy in the arena, which was sort of the, buddy. So that was the idea of like, okay, well, if we've done Stadium Stampede, like we're very good about our traditions. So how can we do, like, why would we do a pre-recorded thing in a state? That doesn't make sense. Like we're a live show now. Oh, let's just turn it up to 11. Let's just go for it. And I remember that day coming in and we knew we were going to have like the whole ref team in this one. And I look at, I think it was Dean Malenko, and I'm like, okay, so how are we doing this? And he just goes, huh?
Sounds about right.
Okay, cool. Sounds about right. So I think we ended up just saying we'll pair off and like each ref will be assigned a wrestler. And it's like, and just go wherever that wrestler goes, not knowing what was going to happen, which is kind of scary in its own right, but also really, really exciting. And I distinctly remember trying to prevent Moxley from moving one of the camera jibs into the wall. Like I'm off frame, just trying to like, no, don't hurt this. This seems expensive.
What an experience that was, just being in the arena for that, because just as the production at AEW, like we knew, but we didn't know what this was going to be or how this was going to turn out. And as fans, we were just like, what is this about to be? I have no idea. This could possibly be insane. And
possibly?
And it turned out to be all of that and more. I'll never forget the story that I'm sitting there with my wife. We're watching Anarchy in the arena go down. And for whatever crazy reason, she's like, I think I need to go to the restroom. I can't hold it at this point. And she decides to go to the restroom. And when she comes out, there's just a brawl right in front of her. And she's like, I don't know how to get back to my seat. And as soon as she got back to the seat, she's like, so you'll never believe this, but she's like, I have Matt Menard's blood just all over my foot. And and that was just a moment. And it was crazy. It was insane. It was something special. The way that not only the chaos was all going on throughout, but by the end, you were still able to follow the story of it all. And it just felt like insanity all wrapped up in a nice little presentation with Wild Thing playing all throughout the background.
Oh my God.
It was super cool because this one felt like you got to be a part of the match. I don't know if that's just me, but all the other ones, like we said, you know, they were taped. We had to do what we had to do in that time period. But this one being back, being live, the fans in-house, you were actually a part of this match because of the absolute anarchy of it all.
Hey.
You didn't know where things were going to go. You didn't know. They often went any and every which way. It was hard to keep up with all the action in this particular Anarchy in the Arena. Well, all of them since then, quite frankly.
Yes.
So my favorite one with this is it created a still image in my mind that best describes what AEW is. And it is Eddie Kingston holding the gas can.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, yeah.
I think that's like, if you're trying to describe to someone in one image what AEW is, that's the image I would send them. Because that was just absolutely, I know I use the word too much. I say it's too insane, but like that was wild, right? Like he's coming in.
A blood-riddled
Eddie Kingston with a gasoline can pouring gasoline on people.
Yes.
just hoping that everyone has hid the matches like this. And just I'm like, yes.
Speaking of hiding the matches, can we talk about the absolute fire of the Owen Hart Tournament finals?
Good segue.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey.
The Owen Hart Tournament, amazing tournament every year. I think it's just something about it being the Owen that elevates everybody's mentality. They elevate their game. The tournament from top to bottom, from start to finish, always incredible. But the finals at Double or Nothing, we had who do we have? We had Britt Baker win the women's finals.
Yep, over Ruby Soho.
Soho. Adam Cole winning the men's. Phenomenal.
And he defeated Samoa Joe. Like, yeah, that was
wild.
And Britt and Cole getting the belts. And we have the finals of the Owen this year returning back to Double or Nothing. And so it is really nice to see kind of how it's come full circle and having started in 2022 at with the finals being at Double or Nothing and then happening again this year really represents
that tradition we talked about.
Yeah, exactly. I am really excited to see it return to Double or Nothing, and with the stakes being so high, getting the main event all in Texas. But yeah, this, again, to be the show that this was, and being the first Double or Nothing back in Las Vegas, this time being at T-Mobile Arena, it did feel, again, like kind of a return to form and a return back to where things had started. And to get to do it with Anarchy in the arena was such a hoot. And then to get to do it again the following year. And the following year was my first year working in AEW. And so I got to see everything from a very different perspective. I was backstage through Double or Nothing, this time back again at T-Mobile Arena. And, you know, getting to see Anarchy in the arena again. This time it was with the Blackpool Combat Club versus the Elite. And this being kind of everything again coming full circle in a way, right? Because we had seen the Elite involved in the first Stadium Stampede, but then we had kind of seen the Blackpool Combat Club involved in Anarchy in the Arena the year before. And so to now see kind of the two names that were associated with this kind of chaos come together, we literally got to see an exploding shoe. And I remember hearing about this all throughout the day and thinking, oh, this is like a metaphor for something, right? Like an exploding shoe is like...
quite literally.
Yeah, and no, it was like quite literal. It was very literal. And again, it was just insane to watch all of this go down the way it had happened. God, what a moment. What a moment Anarchy in the Arena was. But then we also got to see the Pillars 4-way with MJF, Sammy Guevara, Darby Allin, and Jungle Boy, which I think is one of the underrated 4-ways in really wrestling history. I remember thinking about that match as soon as Max got to the back after retaining the title. I was talking to Max about it, and I just remember how well that match was received. We saw Kris Statlander return and become TBS champion. Like, that was a night. That was such a great night.
Yeah, I think like all of us in the back especially were extremely excited for Statlander because she had just come back from her second knee injury.
Yeah.
So talk about someone who, you know, has the whole world ahead of them, who's become one of the strongest members of our women's roster.
Yeah.
And you're seeing her kind of overcome something as traumatic as, you know, essentially like her knee exploded again. So to come back and have that moment of pure surprise and then to end up winning the TBS title and going on to an incredible run, like for me, that's the standout moment of that year's Double or Nothing.
100%.
I think we're all Kris Statlander fans here. I'm sorry, Nyla. I know that, like, you know,
we butt heads sometimes, but I'll co-sign it because I had that one. I had the double header actually. Two shocking moments. Toni Storm winning the AEW Women's World Championship. Boom, Toni Storm right there for
Hell
you.
yeah.
If you're watching this on the video medium. But yeah, she winning the World Championship. Statlander not only returning as a surprise, but capturing the TBS Championship, which had been on lockdown. Nobody able to get their claws on that. Truly a shock.
I disagree. You did.
Well, I did. I
stole it.
Thank you for disagreeing there. I did get my mitts on it. I had it for a little while, but not really. Um, but to be officially recognized as TBS champion, something I'm still hoping and striving for. Huge moment for Statlander and women's wrestling and the AEW women's division. Monumental. Nothing short of monumental for sure.
Speaking of monumental, I think talking about women's division, that's just the easy way to lead into Double or Nothing 2024, which I think for me in particular, I was extremely excited and nervous to see Mercedes Moné in her first match ever.
That's right.
Having joined the company at Big Business a couple months prior in March, we had seen Willow Nightingale win the TBS championship in April at AEW Dynasty. So knowing that these two were going to go against each other was sort of a huge defining moment of our women's division, because we have Mercedes Moné, who's quite possibly one of the best wrestlers in the world, come in and in this co-main event that was Double or Nothing 2024, put on an incredible match that I think at the time ended up being the longest women's match ever. And like, I mean, Willow, despite walking out without a title, like is elevated to a completely new level. Like Willow now, who is like, flipping off Jon Moxley to his face on television. Like we've seen Willow become this incredible wrestler as well, because that's just what Mercedes has sort of done. Is it's every time you bring in someone new who has these outside experiences, who has maybe gone on and done incredible things at other companies, it really comes in and they just elevate everyone else. And it's been awesome to see sort of since that 2024 Double or Nothing, to see the growth of our women's division since then. Because like we've seen the rise of Toni Storm, timeless Toni Storm. We've seen Megan Bayne recently come in and just wreck house. We've seen Jamie Hayter. We'll see Jamie Hayter and Mercedes Moné at this year's Double or Nothing, and I'm really, really excited about it. So I feel like this was a transformative year for seeing kind of how big and how important our women's roster has grown in the history of AEW since like these two Double or Nothings.
For sure. And just to piggyback on that particular point, personally, I feel a very underrated match that doesn't get nearly enough credit on the buy-in. On the buy-in, folks, you cannot miss the buy-in. I'm talking about Thunder Rosa, Deonna Purrazzo. That was a sleeping giant, folks. You gotta watch the buy-ins. You can't just write them off because of some words. It's a part of the show. It's the first part of the show that we're giving you for free.
Free.
Do you not like free stuff? Come on.
Who doesn't like free stuff?
But no, truly, sleeping giant of a match. Absolutely fantastic. But an emotional one for me, just given all of everything, the history, the years, the lineage. Let's go back to 2019. We got the best friends, Trent Beretta versus Orange Cassidy.
Dude.
Hugely emotional match that one was. And just, I can't say enough good things. Like every year we seem to outdo the last one somehow, which I just don't understand how that's possible. This year, like you just mentioned, Jamie Hayter, Mercedes Moné, we got on the card. I'm drawing a brain fart right now. I can't think of anything else. But it's shaping up to be truly fantastic for sure.
Speaking of like seeing things that you never thought and how are we going to top them, that was also the Double or Nothing where we saw Darby Allin literally light another human being on fire.
Yes, finished Eddie Kingston's business.
Exactly, with a flamethrower this time. So just cut to the chase. You don't even have to add the gasoline at that point. But it's just kind of one of those things where we've seen all these crazy, incredible moments. How can we get bigger? And for some reason, somehow, AEW has figured out how to do it consistently time and time again, which is why I'm so excited that Double or Nothing 2025 is almost here, because that question will soon be answered.
Yep, Desert Diamond Arena, Glendale, Arizona, AEWTix.com. Way to be a part of that show. We had 2 shows at the MGM Grand Garden Arena. We had 2 shows at T-Mobile Arena. We had 2 shows at Daly's Place. And now it's time to venture out into Arizona. And I'm really excited for that weekend. I'm going to take a drive to the Grand Canyon. And I am so excited for that time. I hope you guys are too. And it's Double or Nothing. Are you guys ready?
It's Double or Nothing. I'm not ready, but I will be.
I love it. And thank you, Nyla, for being here on AEW Unrestricted.
Always a pleasure. Thank you for letting me come on. I've got Upper Deck cards scattered all around my desk. I wanted to talk about so many moments. Cope at Double or Nothing. We've seen countless times the team Swerve and Nana. I got cards everywhere, and I can't keep focused. But yeah, I'm super excited for what this year is going to bring, and maybe I can come back on and talk about it again.
Hey,
please do. You are welcome back anytime.
Anytime. And as Nyla mentioned, she does have trading cards laying around everywhere because AEW Unrestricted is sponsored in part by Upper Deck. You can collect your favorite wrestlers in the 2025 Upper Deck AEW. Start your trading card collection today. Unwrap autograph, memorabilia, or premium tech inserts. Visit upperdeck.com to learn more. You can listen to and follow this podcast, AEW Unrestricted, on all of your favorite podcast apps, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all of the places where you may listen to a podcast, you can listen to us. And if you prefer to watch us instead, you can get your video episodes on YouTube. Just search AEW Unrestricted, hit the subscribe button, never miss an episode. And are you an AEW insider? Because you can get early access to ticket pre-sales, special merchandise and offers, and more straight to your inbox. I know we recently just sent everyone information on how to get to Forbidden Door, for instance. So definitely worth your time to sign up today. AEWTix.com. Don't forget Dynamite on TBS Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. and streaming on Max. AEW Collision live every Saturday at TNT. ROH streams every Thursday at Honor Club. I'm Aubrey Edwards. That's Will Washington. That's Nyla Rose. Thank you so much for listening to AEW Unrestricted. Peace out, everybody.